outside? Should I run and hide? How do I take my company worldwide? Do you love the law? Did you watch Hee-Haw? What's the weirdest thing that you ever saw? What's it like in court? Favorite sport? Can you help with my book report? Is my hair too long? Am I right or wrong? And do you mind if I sing along to anything? Ask Alan anything in the world.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Ask Alan. I'm Alan Crone, the CEO of the Crone Law Firm. And as usual, we've got a fantastic guest. I'm really excited about this. It's my friend, Kane, who is president of Memphis Tourism. He is charged with the responsibility of bringing tourists into town and managing them once they get here. Kevin, thank you for joining the show. Welcome to Ask Alan.
Thank you, Alan. It's an honor to be with you today. And, it's an exciting time in our industry. Last year, not so much fun. As you know, our industry, tourism and hospitality, got hit severely with COVID. Like everybody got affected by it, but some industries got hit harder than others. Our industry certainly got hit hard. So I didn't do too good a job bringing tourists here last year. I mean, we did 13 million, an all-time record in 2019. In 2020, it dropped to 5.2 million. So I guess I should have been fired because our numbers fell below half, but they're coming back strong. And, we're excited about the future.
Well, as you know, and most of our listeners know, my office is downtown, and about 2 Fridays ago, because I was actually out of town last Friday, I was trying to cross the street there at Union and Front Street, kind of the block between Front and Main, where my office is. And for the last year, I really didn't even have to slow down to cross that street because there was no traffic. On a Friday afternoon, the street was packed. There were lots of people who look like tourists. They were dressed casually and looking around, and lots of folks on the street. So in spite of everything, it looks like, am I right? Are people coming to Memphis now in good numbers?
It started last fall, and we started seeing where every day in downtown Memphis didn't look like a Sunday morning, like it did for about a year and a half, as you know. And about the fourth quarter of 2020, we started seeing people come in from Missouri and Kansas and Texas and, all around the vicinity, mostly people that drove here. They just got pinned up so long, they were ready to go somewhere. And we're in a great location, as you know, and we got a lot to do here. So we're a fun weekend trip. And we started getting a lot of visitors, and started to see our numbers come back, not only in the downtown area, but all over the city. Places like Graceland and the Civil Rights Museum, unfortunately, was closed until early this year, as you may or may not know. But Graceland was reopened. They opened as soon as they could last year. They weren't closed that long. The zoo, other amenities that we have, we started seeing more and more people, started seeing our hotel occupancies grow significantly. And around second week of March of this year, it was like somebody unhooked a fire hydrant. I mean, people were pouring in here, and it seemed like overnight, and it really kind of coincided with the beginning of spring break season. And, I'm in charge of tourism. I don't really view Memphis as a big spring break destination, but we were this year. And it hadn't slowed down. And the recovery and hospitality and tourism is being led primarily with leisure travel right now, which has always been a good market for us. Corporate America, which is also a big market for us with companies like FedEx and AutoZone and International Paper. We get a lot of day-to-day business travel here. That still hadn't come back yet, and pretty anemic in that market segment. And of course, the conventions, meetings, and group market has not come back hardly at all, just in little bits of, drips and drabs. It's been real slow. It's going to heat up in the fourth quarter of this year. Obviously, if the COVID Delta variant doesn't bite us and set us back too severely, but we're starting to see more and more bookings that have not canceled in that fourth quarter, starting with the AutoZone National Sales Meeting in late September. So we're excited about the future. Memphis, on a very positive note, the national average for hotel occupancy rates, we're 10% over the national average. So Memphis is, you could argue that Memphis and Shelby County have stormed back a little bit faster than most markets. Now there's probably a good reason for that in hotel occupancies. We are dominated by small limited service hotels, to my chagrin. But this issue, it's worked out to a positive, because your larger full service hotels that have lots of in-house meetings and conventions that help justify them having 400 or 500 or 600 hotel rooms, they're coming back a little slower around the country than your Holiday Inn Express or Hyatt, Hilton Garden Inn that may have 175 or 150 rooms. They have rebounded a lot faster than your large hotels, and we're dominated by those smaller properties. So that could be part of the reason. But we do have a lot of visitors here, and it hadn't slowed down. Saw a little bit of a downturn in the last couple of weeks with the restart of schools around the country, but it's strong, and we're very thankful for that, because we needed it. A lot of people in our industry were unemployed. An industry that supports close to 60,000 jobs when things are going full throttle here, that dropped probably in half during COVID, and it's inched back up. But now our problem is we can't find employees. It's a real challenge getting people to come back to work in a lot of market segments, and everywhere. I mean, if you talk to FedEx or Nike or even Amazon here in Memphis and Shelby County with their solid salaries, great benefits, great company brand name, and insurance, et cetera, they're even struggling to get people back. So I think it's everywhere. Every market, every industry is dealing with this in some form or fashion. And, but we're no different than what's going on in Nashville or what's going on in Los Angeles. We're all in the same boat when it comes to that. So it's not like Memphis is doing anything wrong. We'll get there.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, particularly with it's hard to hire people these days, no matter what industry you're in. Let me ask you this: how did Kevin Kane get into the tourism business? Because you've had that job a long time, done a great job. How did you get there?
Well, when I was in college, I started off in education. I wanted to be a high school basketball coach. That was my aspiration. And I coached junior high basketball. I played on the junior varsity basketball team at Memphis my freshman and sophomore year, and got very interested in wanting to be a coach, because I wasn't a very good basketball player. So, what they do? They become coaches, except for Penny. He was a great player and a great coach. But I started coaching at a school not too far from my house, First Assembly Christian School. I started coaching with their 7th and 8th grade basketball and baseball team. And I started coaching over where I went to grade school, St. Michael's Catholic School on Summer Avenue. And I was coaching their 7th and 8th grade basketball team. And I really, really enjoyed coaching. But somewhere along the way, I said, I don't want to be an English teacher. I don't want to be a math teacher. I really want to be in business eventually. So I really focused my education degree in the early years towards business. So I took a lot of marketing, a lot of accounting. And at some point, when I realized, number one, maybe I wasn't a very good basketball coach. Number two, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to go in a different direction. And I switched over to business and ultimately centered on marketing and accounting at Memphis with a business education degree of all things. So it worked out very well for me. And then I started in the airline industry. My brother-in-law worked for Southern, then Republic, then Northwest. They had a number of iterations, but he worked at the airport. And I said, man, my brother-in-law has a pretty cool job, and he can travel free around the country. And so I got this interest in my early 20s. I was still in college, and but to go to work for an airlines, and I got on with Frontier Airlines, not the Frontier Airlines that's flying today. It's the old Frontier Airlines, headquartered out of Denver. So I was very fortunate to get a position there, working the ticket counter and working the ramp and working the air freight, and kind of doing all the things that you do when you're a ground agent at an airline. So I worked at our airport for 5 years, and then they moved out of Memphis, left Memphis. I didn't want to leave Memphis. So at that point, I went to work for one of the largest travel agencies in the country. that had a big office in Memphis serving different accounts. And that kind of got me into travel sales. And then one day, one of my colleagues up in Minnesota, where our agency was headquartered, said, "Man, Holiday Inns is looking for national sales directors to work with corporate accounts. Well, that's something we ought to do." And of course, I'm in Memphis, and Holiday Inns was headquartered in Memphis. So, man, I went to the periodical that had it in there, and I said, So I answered I didn't know anybody, and I answered the ad, and they called me in for an interview based on my experience, and I got hired. And that was really the beginning of, took me in a different direction. I was already in travel and hospitality, but obviously working for, at that time, the largest hotel company in the world that had hotels all over the world. And I was in their corporate sales, where eventually I ended up being national for North America. I ran all the national sales for North America. So, fortunately had a great growth career there. And then Holiday Inns gets sold in 1991, and they're going to move us all, who they kept, which was, I think, 150 out of 1,800 employees at corporate headquarters out on Lamar. They were going to take like 160 of us to Atlanta. And once again, I'm single. I'm in my early 30s. I said, "Man, I don't want to leave Memphis. I love Memphis." And it was so funny when I worked at Holiday Inns, literally traveling around the world, the whole world. I mean, they're a global company, and I got some great experience with Holiday Inns. And they used to call me Mr. Memphis because I would brag about Memphis, my hometown, wherever I would go. I would just brag about how great Memphis was. So I saw that I didn't really want to leave, and there were some other divisions with Holiday Corporation, our parent company, that I was looking at. And at that point, the head of tourism for this organization, his contract wasn't renewed or something. He got crossways with the board, or I don't even know what happened. And I said, "Man, that would be people started saying that would be the perfect job for you, perfect job for you." Pat Halloran was the chairman then. And of course, they were very focused on getting somebody that had lots of convention and visitors bureau experience, which I had none, but I had a lot of travel industry experience. And I loved Memphis. So I interviewed for that. Interview process probably lasted for 3 or 4 months. They did a pretty extensive search over the country. And ultimately, I had some people in my corner. I had Mike Rose, that was the chairman of Holiday Corporation. I had Charlie Vergas, who ran the Rendezvous, and I had Jack Bells from the Peabody. So I had 3 pretty strong people in my corner.
Not a bad corner staff right there.
At least give me a close look. I mean, they couldn't force him to give me the job. It's a volunteer board, and Pat Halloran's a pretty independent thinker. I mean, he makes his own mind. He's not going to be pushed around. And he loves Memphis too, as you know, being at the Orpheum for so many years and doing such a great job there. And I didn't really know Pat that well. When I started this interview process, we later became, pretty close business associates in this industry and good, ultimately very close friends. But they ended up hiring me. I was pretty young at the time. I was in my 33 years old. I was pretty young for that position, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's been a privilege and an honor for me to having the ability to sell the city that I love so much. And I think if I'm not a great salesperson, I think my love and affection for the city is so genuine that it makes it very believable, whatever I'm telling people about Memphis, because of my passion for the city. I think that's been my strength for all these years, because I've never wavered on that. And, this is a job where, it's a pretty broad job. You work very closely with government, both 3 governments: state government, city government, county government. And you work with a bunch of stakeholders of hotel leaders and hotel owners, restaurants, attractions, museums, events, sports. I mean, it's very diverse position. And it's just been wonderful. It's been if I rewrote the script, I wouldn't want to do anything different. I wouldn't want to be a high school basketball coach as much as I love Bubba Luckett at CBHS and, the coaches around the city. I have a great deal of respect for them. I think I'm doing what I was supposed to do.
Well, you'd have been a great basketball coach, although if you were looking for the CBHS job, you'd still be waiting, because Bubba's been there pretty much his
And he does a great
the whole
job.
time. How has it changed selling Memphis in the 90s? How is it different now than it was then?
Back in the 90s and even in the early 2000s, we kind of did the shotgun approach. We just would get our marketing message and our sales message. And if we were talking to consumers or we were talking to meeting planners, obviously meeting planners or sports organizers were a little bit more targeted, but to the masses, which is part of our responsibility, it was just a shotgun approach. We would fire it out there and we would see where it stick. Today we are so data driven. We spend probably close to $1 million a year on research and data gathering. We geofence over 160 areas of our city. On any given night, I can, within a few days, I can tell you where most of the people came from that were in Overton Square or on Beale Street or at Graceland. I mean, we know an incredible amount of information because of these things. We can track people very closely as they maneuver around our community, and that's not really spying on people. We don't get such detailed information that we know their job and their salary and things like that. But we do get enough data that we know where our visitors are coming from, where are the strengths for what we're doing, what are the hot activities when people do come here, how effective is this music fest or that music gathering or visits to this museum or that museum. So I would say, Alan, that in the last 20 plus years, it's become much more sophisticated. It's really, it's not rocket science, but there is a science to what we do. And it's a lot more sophisticated. I know a lot of people look at me and say, God, he's, what does CEO stand for? Chief Entertainment Officer. It looks like he's always having a great time in his job. And God, he promotes tourism. That's just a play game. But tourism and hospitality before the COVID was close to $3.8 billion of new money spent in the Memphis economy, supporting close to 60,000 jobs all across Shelby County, generating hundreds of millions of dollars of tax revenue for the state and for Memphis and Shelby County. I mean, it's really, tourism is serious business in our community. What I say we're as important or as powerful to this community as FedEx, of course not. I wouldn't compare us to FedEx, but this industry is very important to this community, and it's just become very sophisticated in the way we operate. I mean, it's very targeted, very focused. When we spend our money now, we used to, you'd buy an ad in periodicals or newspapers or, and you wouldn't know what the results were in a lot of cases. Of course, the salesperson who would come to you from those magazines or those newspapers would tell us, well, our circulation is this and the average income is that. We've gone so far beyond that type of data. Now we know what the impact of our efforts are in so many cases, and we can track the results of what we're doing. And if we're doing something in the wrong direction, we can, because of digital and the technical, the way technology has changed our industry, we can quickly change a lot of our efforts within a day, not within a month or within 2 months or next year. We can change very quickly. We can be very mobile. So we know what people's travel habits are. We know what people what they like to do when they're here, where they like to eat, what they enjoy the most, what they don't like. We've got lots of tracking and research devices that, if you book a flight on Delta Airlines or American Airlines and you're in Memphis, Tennessee, is something we know about it. I mean, we know where they're coming from, who they're flying on. It's just amazing how much how this industry has changed. So it's just different now. We spend a lot of money doing things that used to be bigger than our entire budget years ago. Our budget, our organization, is north of 15 million a year. And we spend money all over the world. And we have offices in London. We have 3 people in the UK. We have 1 in Germany. We have a full-time employee full-time employee in Australia, in New Zealand, and pay his salary 100%. His whole family is being paid for by from Memphis, Tennessee. We're making transfers to him every 2 weeks. So, we have a global presence. And because Memphis is a global destination, as you know, Alan, I mean, a lot of people love coming here from all over the world. Obviously, music is still our biggest hook. They come here for other reasons, but they love our barbecue and they love being in the South. And there's a lot of things people find that they love about Memphis, but the reality of it is music is still the primary hook that has made us famous around the world. And it's a lot of fun. It's a great industry.
I agree with you. Memphis is, I think we don't appreciate as Memphians sometimes how well known and well loved Memphis is around the world. Mayor Strickland tells a story when he was first elected, and I don't remember if it was Fred Smith or Pitt Hyde or someone of that level said to him, and I think he's found it to be true. They said, Mr. Mayor, you can get a return phone call from anybody in the world by telling them that you're the mayor of Memphis. And more so than the mayor of Toledo or Cincinnati or a lot of other places, with all due respect to them. Memphis around the world just has a cachet of being, kind of like New Orleans. It's got kind of a international mystery about it because people have heard different things, and it's in more songs than just about any city in the world, I think.
Well, according to the Guinness Book of Records, the name Memphis is mentioned in popular music more than any other city in the world. I think we still hold that record.
Yeah.
And but you're right, there is a mystique to our community. We were a city of first, as you know, and so many, going all the way back to Piggly Wiggly with the first self-service grocery store, to Fred Smith with logistics and transportation revolutionized with FedEx, to Holiday Inn founded by Kemmons Wilson, the modern day hotel chain. And we could go on and on. But of course, you can't erase the fact that music, whether it's popular music in America, whether it's rock and roll, whether it's blues, whether it's soul music, and to some form, even forms of country with rockabilly and other things, if it didn't start in Memphis, it started probably within a couple of 100 miles in one direction or the other of Memphis, with Memphis playing a very central part of that. We try to claim blues and rock and roll, and maybe some people would argue that, and that's okay, but we don't deny it. Most people don't argue it. They agree with us. But now we say Memphis, home of blues, soul, and rock and roll. And we've thrown soul in there because, with Stax and with the influence that came out of all this great soul music that came out of here. But, that also gives Memphis a coolness factor that may not resonate to everybody that's from here or lives here. But when you start promoting that in different parts of the world, they completely understand it and get it, and they gravitate towards it. Music is the universal language. You got people who can't speak other languages, but they can speak those people's languages through their music. They may not even know what they're singing, but they can repeat the tune of the music and the words, even if it's another language. And I think certainly with American music around the world, there's a lot of cultures that kind of learned English through our music. And so it was a powerful vehicle for us.
Well, I know that a lot of politicians may claim credit for this, but you certainly led the way on renovating our convention center, which it was your leadership that back in 2016, 2015, started that process. And that's coming online now. And if we can ever get past all of this quarantine stuff and COVID stuff, that's going to be, talk about that. That's going to be a huge shot in the arm for this, for your job, but just for the whole community, based on the people it's going to bring, and not just people, but the kinds of people it's going to bring, hopefully from all over the world.
It goes back to Mayor Harrington. He knew we needed a new convention center, a greatly improved convention center. Unfortunately, through his administration, they couldn't get it done. Enter Mayor Wharton. He certainly understood it. and he got the ball kind of rolling. But I will tell you, it was Mayor Strickland who, I think when Mayor Strickland came into office, we had about $60 million through hotel motel bed tax to make this a reality. And that was all we were going to be able to get. And through the Strickland administration, they took that budget to close to $200 million. And let me say to any Memphians that are listening to this, not one penny of general fund taxpayers' dollars into this project. It was all done with what we call hospitality or ad valorem, non-revenue streams that do not impact your property taxes at your house or in the city or the county. It was either the hotel motel bed tax, the tourism development zone, which is a vehicle that was created by the state of Tennessee a number of years ago that started off helping with convention centers and sports arenas, and we were able to use it for both. And some other revenue opportunities that did not affect general fund. And Mayor Strickland's team was able to get that up to $200 million. And it allowed us, instead of doing a paint up, fix up of a very old, antiquated, becoming into really obsolescence from a functionality standpoint, it became a facility that today, that if I could describe in 3 words, is modern, it's flexible, and it's efficient. We can do so many things with that building that we couldn't do before this transformation. I hate to call it a renovation because I'm not doing it justice just to say it got renovated. It's basically a brand new building inside and out. We sat on the Mississippi River, and back when that was built in the early 1970s, convention centers all over the country were just concrete, solid block, monolithic, very singly focused facilities for conventions, trade shows, or whatever you would use it for. And here we're sitting on the mighty Mississippi, and that beautiful bridge that at night puts on a light show like that would rival the Bellagio fountain in Las Vegas. As I tell people, that's our Bellagio fountain, our Memphis or Hernando de Soto Bridge in downtown Memphis. Spectacular. During Elvis Week, by the way, they had Elvis and all of his great songs, going across the bridge. You could read it as plain as day. It's amazing what you can do with that. I encourage all people to go down some night and just watch the bridge. It's just beautiful, and it's entertaining all in its own right. But we never took advantage of the river. Well, now the whole west side of the building, which the west side of the upper level was nothing but a storeroom. Now that's a beautiful concourse. It's all floor to ceiling glass that opens up to the river. And it's just a beautiful flavor of what Memphis and the beauty of Memphis and downtown Memphis. And that's just the looks. Now, when you start looking at what we can do inside the building, we put 300,000 square feet of carpet in that room. That's all. I'm not sure there's 300,000 square feet totally in any building in the state of Tennessee. We got a ton of carpet in this building, but it's beautiful. And the building's very flexible. We even addressed things that we had that most people wouldn't care about. But, our load in, load out, people want to have a conference or trade show there because our big hall is on the 2nd floor and we only had one way in and one way out, where usually when you go into a big exhibit hall, they got loading docks for, 5 to 15 loading docks where you can back these trucks up and unload quickly and then get out of there. We didn't have that ability to do that. Now we've got 5 loading docks, access to that 2nd floor. It's all ramped, and 18-wheelers can come in and multiple times and work together and come in and come out. So even the back of the house, the front of the house, the flexibility of the building. We had very low ceilings in much of that building. We blew all that out. We blew entire floors out. Now we've got at least 25-foot ceilings in every room that you go in. It's just, it was a big shot in the arm. It's going to pay huge dividends for Memphis and Shelby County for a long, long time. We still need, we hope the Lowe's Hotel happens. If not, we hope something else happens. We probably do need another new big modern hotel, very, right next door to the convention center, as close as we could possibly get it. So we're still kind of make that, hotels got hit so hard during COVID. It's hard to go out and get a bank to loan you $200 or $300 million for a hotel right now, no matter who you are. We're doing some smaller hotels throughout the city. You can get those financed. And the Carlisle project down on Beale Street, which is going to be a great amenity for our city when they're done, 700 plus rooms on that corner, great views of the river, great rooftop decks, wonderful swimming pools, great restaurants, lots of meeting space. The Hyatt complex is going to be great for the city. So, we're excited about the future, and the convention center is certainly going to play a part in that. We even got a naming rights partner, which is kind of novel, but it's starting to happen in different parts of the country with Renaissance Bank. Stepped up and signed a multi-year deal that generates much needed revenue for supporting that building. So I think we got a bright future there, and I'm so proud of the way the facility turned out. It exceeded my expectations. You see a rendering when you're dreaming of something, and a lot of times the finished product doesn't quite look like the rendering. In this case, our project turned out, to me, more exciting and more beautiful than even the rendering showed. So I think we knocked it out of the park with that. And I think all citizens will be very proud of it when they go down there for an event, or, for some reason. I think they're going to be very proud of it too.
Yeah, if you're in the area and you haven't seen it in the last year or so, you ought to drive by it. You ought to drive under it and see how that part of it has changed. It's a great facility. And once that market segment comes back and we start having in-person meetings again, it's going to be a great place to have a meeting, particularly a higher end business meeting, et cetera. And I tip my hat to you and to Mayor Strickland, and particularly to Doug McGowan, the COO, who's been on this show. He headed up that construction committee, and you guys brought that in under budget and on time.
We did. And I got to give a real hats off to, one of Mayor Strickland's point people, who's Doug McGowan. He should be. He's the chief operating officer, but he's also on our board. And he cares about this building. He cares about the whole city. But, it was great having him by our side because he could see things as we were going through this process. And, we had some, it's a 45, almost a 50-year-old building. So we ran into some issues with light, gas, and water, or nothing that anybody was doing wrong. Just older buildings have issues that nobody can anticipate. Anything that touched the city in some form or fashion, it's not like, Chief McGowan didn't say, well, do whatever you want to do. I mean, he looks at things very closely, and he has to balance the scales because Memphis is a big city with a lot of needs. But he was really good to us, and really, very analytically studied issues. And when we needed a little extra help on something, he was there for us, and we owe him a great bit of gratitude too.
And I'll give a shout out to Brian Collins, who was the CFO of the city during Wharton's administration, and then continued on with Mayor Strickland's administration for, I guess, a couple of years. And then he went on to bigger and better things in Illinois. But he was also part of the brain trust that put that financing package together and figured out how to maximize it. And he was a vocal proponent of the increased loading dock. And in fact, I think there's a plaque up there.
There is a plaque. We haven't put the plaque with the mayor's name and the city council, which of course we will do, on the board of the convention center board. All those people will be recognized. But by golly, we got a plaque already up for Brian Collins, who doesn't even live here anymore. As you say, he lives in Illinois. He came in town. I think Doug McGowan marched him up there and said, see here, we didn't forget you. Because, as the finance chief of the city, and Shirley Ford has followed up on that, by the way, but, he really helped craft a lot of the funding scheme that allowed us to, to spend $200 million in that building. I'll always be indebted to Brian Collins, because I think we complained about how difficult it was to load in and load out, as we would just use that as an example. Finally, it kind of hit him. I don't think he's ever planned a convention there, but he sure got that. He said, we're going to get that loading dock situation straightened out. And boy, he helped us with the ability to do that.
All right. Well, my sons, James and Charlie, they would be upset with me if I didn't ask you this question. When are we going to get a NBA All-Star game in Memphis? Is it ever going to happen?
I've been asked that question, I bet you 100 times.
I'm sure.
I would love to say that the NBA All-Star game will be here within 5 years. Unfortunately, they could be here tomorrow if they would change their rules and their requirements for hosting an NBA All-Star game. And by the way, we tried to bid on one a few years ago. We got so creative, we even secured hotel rooms in Tunica because they have large hotels down there. And we were going to have a escort to escort buses back and forth down 61 because they tie right into 3rd Street. That's Highway 61 goes right in front of our building. And we were going to have continual shuttle with state trooper and Mississippi escort to the Mississippi state line, picked up by Tennessee authorities that would carry it on into the FedEx Forum. But unfortunately, they have one rule that is unfortunately rules Memphis out, rules Oklahoma City out, rules a lot of other cities out, Sacramento. I can name a number of cities that don't qualify. And it is that they want 5,000 committable rooms in 10 hotels or fewer within a couple of miles of the conventions of the arena. Well, even with all the expansion we've had over the last few years, I think we have about 3,800 or maybe 4,000, close to 4,000 hotel rooms in downtown Memphis. Unfortunately, that's in about 20 something hotels. They're looking for big hotels where they can put their, not their fans as much as all the VIPs that they bring in for the game, alumni, former greats, Hall of Famers, et cetera, that come in for All-Star Weekend, and corporate partners, et cetera, et cetera. So they want, basically we would have to have 10 500-room hotels within 2 miles of the building. Well, we have 2 hotels. We only have 1 hotel over 500 rooms within 2 miles of the building. And we only have 4 hotels in all of, we only have 2 hotels in Shelby County that have 500 rooms or larger. And so we fall way short of a real requirement that they have that doesn't rule out Memphis. It rules out about a half a dozen NBA cities. And until they change their rules on how you can house people, we could house the folks that would come here. We just can't house them with the requirements that they're asking for. I think that's the only thing that we don't pass the test on. I think we could pass the test on every other requirement they had as far as having an all-star game here. So if they ever relax that rule, and it's not just us, it's a number of cities that don't meet that qualification, and maybe someday they will relax that, and maybe we can figure out a way to host them. I would love to have them here, as I know your sons would.
Yeah, maybe the next what you really need for an all-star game is about 60 rooms.
Yeah.
And I said, well, there's a little bit more to it than that, but
it's 5,000 rooms, and they want it in 10 hotels or fewer.
So that's like 10. That would be like 10 Peabody hotels in downtown Memphis.
Peabody would have to add 40 rooms.
Yeah. I mean,
so, yeah, you're right. It would be 10 Peabody hotels within 2 miles.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, Kevin, I sure appreciate your time. This has been a great conversation. We didn't even really talk too much about the youth sports complex and as you said,
so excited about that. Very excited about that. It's going to pay great dividends for the city.
That really will. When it opens up, maybe we'll have you back on and talk about it, because
youth sports and amateur sports is big business for Memphis. Whether it's micro soccer, whether it's the the baseball fields out there in Cordova, or whether it's the convention center that hosts a number of events. Youth sports is very important to every city. And, Mayor Strickland made it available for us to improve Leftwich. Going to have 36 tennis courts over there, going to be the home of the University of Memphis, but the public will use it as well. And we will be able to bring USTA tennis tournaments to Memphis back again like we used to at the Racket Club. Probably not an ATP men's professional tournament, but a lot of youth tournaments and adult tournaments, and playing these tournaments all over the state. And so we're really excited about that. But there's a lot of great things. Yeah, I need to be on again because there's so much that's going on. We got so much we could talk about, but I really appreciate you having me today.
I love having you. We'll do it again. Again, thank you so much. You really classed the joint up. I appreciate it.
No.
And take care of yourself. And I'll see you around campus. Thank you all for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it on social media or email it to somebody who you think might enjoy it. Email it to somebody in a distant city in St. Louis or Minneapolis or New York who need to learn about Memphis and come here for a weekend. It is a great place to visit for a weekend or a week or even a month. I've enjoyed making my life here. It's a great town. So thank you all very much. Thanks again to Kevin Kane. Kevin is going to go promote Memphis, and I'm going to go get some justice. Thank you all very, very much.